It's the weekly 30-30 trading list on the ASX. We're reviewing the 30 best momentum companies over the last quarter, and then we look in within those companies to see the ones that have had the best improvement this week, what we call the launchpad. When we look through these, we're guided by Gary Glover, who's pulled apart these lists, found the best trades, and is here to unpack them to show us the levels he's looking for and the turning points or the characteristics that are really standing out to him. So we say good morning, Gary Glover from Novus Capital. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, Chris. Nice to see some green on the screens for a week.
Oh, yes. I was just going to ask you, the markets had that reversal. We've now entered the third solid day in a row of massive gains. What's standing out to you with what's happening in the market and movers and shakers that are lighting up in front of you?
Yeah, I love the fact that the indexes sort of came back to that 67, 60, so just broke that old low there, which is a bit of a key level I was looking for. And also that 90-day sort of just, I noticed, sort of sideways orientated sort of markets, those 3 months. And it's basically like, I'm not sure if people haven't sort of heard of those sort of, cycles there. We talk about, 10-year and the intraday, the intra-year cycles, the sell and May and go away, that sort of stuff there. And you've got your seasonality, your 4-year cycles there. But there are cycles, within the years. And I know sort of Gann talks about these cycles there, and so looking at sort of half-year and quarter-year cycles. So essentially 13 weeks, which is 90 calendar days, or 26 weeks, which is 180 calendar days. That they're sort of important sort of cycles. And look, sometimes they flow on, sometimes they don't work there. I personally found them a lot more valid in sideways orientated markets there. So we're in a bit of a sideways churn there. We're sort of, looking for sort of, sort of key timings there, sort of, those sort of 13 weeks or 26 weeks from an important higher low, just something to sort of keep an eye out for it. Key sort of turning points. So if we get those at the right time there, it can be quite powerful. That looks like we're sort of seeing a pretty strong bounce off that low here, some pretty good volume to come in as well in the market. We got a follow through day, not last night on the NASDAQ, the night before. So we got our, I think it was like 1.63% up on stronger volume. Some sort of William O'Neill enthusiasts sort of so you're going to get 1.7 for it to be a bit more meaningful. So it's just shy of that, maybe that bigger mark. But in terms of the raw basic numbers there, definitely was a follow through day. And then we've had another big day as well here. So I'm starting to see a bit of volume there, bit of breadth. So that's sort of good signs there. So I think it's pretty constructive there. And the Fed pausing, just looking like it's sort of going to sit tight for a while. So yeah, we might get a little hiccup here on Tuesday. I can't see how we're going to avoid not having a rate hike. So that might cause a little hiccup in the market there. But I think it's probably just going to be short term there. But overall, constructive there. It was just interesting. We were talking about last week, Chris, how banks have all pulled back. Healthcare's been smashed. Quite a few, even like lithium's been sort of hit pretty hard. Like a lot of sectors have pulled back pretty deep. And you had gold, iron ore, some other miners there hold pretty tight, actually really sort of, doing that little sideways sort of shuffle, showing a bit of relative strength in a pretty negative market. So they're all poised as well. So we've seen, those iron ore, I think Rio, Fortescue, they're all breaking out of sort of sideways congestion patterns. Gold's about a good move here, just sort of maybe congesting here as well. But the whole market looks sort of poised to, it's when you look through all the different sectors, you think, this is a low here. I could see all the sectors run together here and really get going here. You've had a pretty decent move here and sort of had some good days up here. So it's pretty constructive the way I look at it. Not going to go up straight line here, but I think some good signs there.
Well, that's probably good to hear that the market has turned. There's good signs, follow through days happening in the S&P 500. So when you're looking at the quarterly momentum, obviously they're the strongest companies on the market. So whether it's strong or not, we're still servicing the best. But with that tailwind happening with the market turn, what are you seeing in the quarterly list this week?
The quarterly list there, sort of, actually number 2 caught my eye pretty quickly here. Actually, I even tried to trade this one yesterday. But I just kind of hesitated, sort of got away from me, and this wasn't. I was trying to read up about it actually, but just NOx, which is not so far, which is I guess another biotech in that sort of might be sort of pancreatic or something. I think might be just another sort of cancer treatment there. So, but had a pretty good little update there, and just had that little BCP in there, Chris. So it's had a pretty good jump here, good volume. So a couple of good days up, good volume there. Had a bit of a pullback, good recovery again. Pulled back on lighter volume this time. Had a bit of a jump on pretty good volume again, and then eased back on lighter volume. So it's sort of pretty constructive there. Seen this little update here, little congestion, maybe a little pop through the B wave there. So, it was just hard there. Sort of, I've got with the market being quite low, there was just a lot of golds and energy and iron ore sort of sitting up there. So there's lots of trades already there. The index coming off the sort of low as well. Sort of, I did buy a bit of gear sort of on that sort of 90-day low as well. Just something I looked for, and so I didn't have a lot of capital left there. So just this is one that I sort of did look at. They did like to look at this, it's probably it's just had a nice little move. Just that classic little tightening pattern there, a little bit of a jump and pause. But the thing I like here is there's some pretty good volume there. So the other thing to be wary with these biotechs, Chris, is sometimes when they run, a raise can be around the corner. So that's it's actually a pretty good lesson there, because we were talking about, it was actually we had a bit of a technical issue with the list yesterday, but one of the stocks that sort of came through by mistake was Paradigm, but it's actually a really good lesson, Paradigm, because this is one that actually had some really good news out in stock, and then sort of sold off into that news, and then had another rally again on some good news, and then sold straight off into that news there. So this is sort of why, you can argue about charts and, fundamentals and who wants to trade which way there. But, if you're basically trading just fundamentals only, you should have bought this stock twice here in the last couple of weeks. The fundamental reports and announcements were sensational, but stock yapped up and then just went straight into sort of selling and was aggressively sold back here. And it's like, well, it sort of didn't make sense as to why that would be the case. So if you're a price follower looking at technicals, they've got to support the fundamentals. So we don't just trade something on fundamentals only. We really need to see price support of that nature. So to me, if you're not using charts, you're operating with one hand behind your back here. And this is a good example as you'll see in the market. Whereas cracking a couple of good results here, and all it did was sell off in that result. So it didn't make sense to me as to why it was selling off, but price action was negative. So it was telling us not to trade the stock. And then, 2 days ago, we find out there's a massive raising done, and done a massive discount as well. And done a fairly large placement there, so haven't really looked after the shareholders so much as well. So, that just tells you, obviously, insiders knew there was a raise was coming here, and obviously that news was sort of trying to, obviously they're waiting for that news maybe to drive the share price higher here so they can get this done at a higher price here. But when people in the market know that they're, they'll be selling it here, so the price action was just telling us not to go near this. So, it's pretty interesting here. I bet you'll find here once this placement gets done, Chris. So I think it'll be all locked away probably by the middle of late November. It'll probably start to go up after then. But it's just a good lesson there as to why sort of price action technicals is important there, because if you're following fundamentals only, you would have bought the stock here and you'd be probably close to down 30-40% here. So it's a good lesson there. I think it's just that's why you sort of price action is really important.
That is a good lesson. So fundamentals with technicals. But this one's roaring ahead. Massive volume since September, obviously off the back of news. Rally from 8.40 cents. That ticks itself into the high and tight flag possible category.
Yeah.
What's happening from here?
Yeah, no, but perfect there. So it's obviously, pretty good sort of rating there around 36. So number 7 at the moment there. So pretty strong ranking there. Had a pretty positive move, pretty good volumes all the way up here. And then really sort of just gone sideways there. So most of these days in here, I think you might have saw 1 day of selling, which we always talk about. You always see 1 day of selling here, but it's always the follow through that you're going to be wary of. We haven't really seen that. We've sort of seen probably more volume, probably on the little up days and stuff there. Even sort of in here, we're sort of gone tight here again, but the whole thing's gone sideways here. So this is there's a little high tight flag sort of going on there, Chris. So still pretty constructive. Look at that volume there. It just hasn't, we've only seen the 1 day of selling here so far. So not too much selling here. So this looks really positive to me. It looks pretty constructive there. So no, nothing negative about that chart there. XTE was sort of one that we mentioned there last week. How it had something sort of similar, pretty impulsive rally, bit of a sideways shuffle here. Now we're sort of starting to move up here. Volumes are okay without being great here, so probably just going to watch this one, just follow it there, but still looks okay. Probably would have liked to have seen a bit bigger volume there, so probably that might temper your upside sort of view there. What else was there? Oh, there was actually BLG was one actually that I thought was pretty interesting here. Bit of a cup and handle in here, Chris, really, for sort of look at that that setup in there. We had a pretty nice volume, in a market was pretty weak. Go back up and retest the high there, do a little tight handle there. Look at that through there, just no selling after a pretty nice run here, pretty good volume. All these days in here, you had like 5 or 6 days just pulling back here, nice and tight handle, nothing going on, and then bang, 1 day up, you can see the volume come in. So that's pretty good setup here. So probably a little small here, but this looks quite good. So there's a sort of classic little patterns we sort of want to see. RMS, probably one I'm keeping an eye on here. Because I did sort of sell my reverse. We just got into a little bit sort of consolidation there, and I saw some of the other golds sort of setting up a little bit better. So I just reallocated one gold to another gold, but has had a bit of a pullback here now. So this is sort of one to keep an eye on there. Just, hasn't been too much volume. I think it might have been maybe 1 or 2 decent days in there, but it's probably due for a little bit of a 3-way pullback, bit of a pause there. Just want to see volume dry up here. So seeing no volume here so far today here. So that's quite good again. So definitely one to sort of keep an eye on there. Just we saw there with with those uranium stocks there, they did tend to run, then sort of pull back and then run and then congest and then even run again and then congest. So that's just the type of thing we're just got to keep an eye out for these little pullbacks, little congestion. You just don't want to see too much, see that lighter volume in there. You want to look for that. So nice little tight congestion. Don't go too far. That's what you want to see from some of these golds here. The golds have had a nice little jump here. 3 or 4 weeks of sort of good movement there, but you're gonna get your pullbacks there. So what's important there is just to sort of see them not pull back too much, be more sideways orientated, and just the volume to sort of dry up there. So CIA was sort of champion iron there. Actually, that's had a pretty nice move too, Chris. I mean, that's been, we're talking about Rio and Fortescue being pretty bullish there, but that's showed relative strength there. What was one I was watching actually, but just can't trade everything. But look at that volume there. Sort of had a couple of down days in here, and then it's popped out of the range here. So this is probably little B wave break in here, and that's just really kicked on since then. So that's why it's important to sort of look at these stocks that are showing strength there, because they're the ones that sort of tend to kick on here. So that definitely looks pretty good. I thought FL1, the last one on the list as well, just want to keep an eye on there, just because it's been okay volume there. There's that, to be honest, when I was looking through the list there yesterday, Chris, when I saw this one, I thought, oh, FL1, that chart there, this little pop, good volume, ease back, bit of a pop again, congestion back, and then go there. Just reminded me of this one,
Yeah, right.
Volume, congest, it'll pop again, congest. So yeah, when I was sort of looking back, I thought, oh, that looks quite good. That's how they often sort of, you know, so we know, you just don't know how far these things going to run sometimes. So, but that's a pretty new stock. So it's just interesting. There's obviously pretty new player there. It's funny. I do keep a list of all the new companies there. So this is one that actually didn't. Must have sort of come in just after I looked there last time because it wasn't on my little IPO list there. But that's a little, even if you're trading IPOs and stuff, some of the small ones there, they're always pretty tricky when they're early because you don't have a lot of price action. But that's not a bad little price action there. It sort of jumped up, bit of volume there, jumped up again, and then sort of just squeezed, like tightened up here. And then you get a little bit of a trigger there. Obviously, that's a good volume day there. That's pretty positive there. So you can sort of trade even some of these IPOs with a little bit of price action. You're waiting for volume and to dry up and a little consolidation. You can still sort of trade around some of those there if you like them as well. So that was the quarterly list there. There wasn't too many sort of in there. So there's a few other ones that sort of popped up there. I think sort of West Gold we've been sort of seen running at Spartans, and Southern Cross Gold. So and a few rated stocks that have been on the list as well, which was sort of talked about there. They're probably more interesting. So there was just the usual suspects in there, but I thought the weekly list was probably a bit more interesting. There's a few things in there. That ENR, which was in there last week there, if I'm not mistaken, that's the one, I think that's the graphite play, I think, from memory. Might have had a jump there last week there, so just keep an eye on that. I think keep an eye on, and I was watching this array yesterday just to see how it's like popped up here, congested back in a little tight manner. Now we're just starting to edge out of that little consolidation there. So I think pretty sure the ENR, that little graphite play there, just has a little bit of a pop here. Almost want to see a little congestion and pull back there. Number 5 of the list was Zenith Minerals. I thought it was interesting there. It's another little, only because we've got sort of two things there. We've sort of got a little bit of a BCP sort of setting up and we've got volume. So that's the thing that always, when I see sort of some big volume there come in, it always sort of tweaks my interest there. So there's actually some pretty decent volume here. Did break a bit of a swing high as well, it's always a good sign. Pull back again, and now we're seeing volume again, pretty decent. Saw one day of selling in here, but now we're sort of congested back in, but one day back up again, some volume again. So definitely worth keeping an eye on this one here. It's just got the classic ingredients there that look all right there. Did see Zip on the list as well. So, I thought it looked okay, Zip. Obviously, I think Square had a good result there. So, sort of showing something there. So, I think, Zip looks okay in the short term, but the problem with Zip is you get so much overhead supply. So, it can rally here. Maybe it can get a bit higher up into the 40s there, but it's just never really going to, fly, in my opinion, because you sort of got so much overhead resistance there. Number 11 was interesting there. Just only because I was actually looking at a stock related to this yesterday. So I was doing some homework on a little stock there, sort of someone had sent through and have a look at. I think the CEO might have been involved in this one. So, it's had a pretty decent sort of decline there. So it's obviously a lithium sort of play that's sort of been on the nose there. But it started to turn up here, probably some sort of short-term interesting signs there. But the one that I saw was BBX, which was again another little lithium sort of rare earth sort of play there, but it was just the volume really. Like when it sort of sent through, like normally it's being sent through and I'll just look at it and go, nut. And I looked at this, I thought, wow, there's actually some really, really big volume there. I had a closer look at what's been going on there. It sort of has done a placement as well there, so it's actually raised a little bit of money to do some drilling there. So that we'll do some drilling next year, but would look like it's sort of, there's a little bit of accumulation taking place on small ones. So it's just one to keep an eye on there. I haven't done anything of that. I just thought it was interesting there that those sort of some of those lithium plays have been really rare earth plays have come back quite deep. So it's just worth having a look at some of those. 4DS was on the list as well, so that's one that sort of had that spike here. I did look at this yesterday, Chris, and thought, well, that looks really interesting there, just because all this pullback in here, like it's had a decent few runs here, now it's had a decent pullback, but the whole thing is right up. So there's just no volume here. So we're looking
But not much range either. So tight coil, low volume.
Yeah, so we want to see those stronger stocks have pretty good volume, pretty good rallies there. And at some stage, they'll have a bit of a pause, and then we're looking at sort of safe entry there. So I did think this looked, yesterday I thought, well, that's pretty interesting. Just the volume's really dried up here. So looking for a little bit of a catalyst out of the range there. So potentially might have that there today. So that, that's quite interesting. VIT, I thought was pretty interesting as well. Hasn't really broken a swing high here yet, but we have got this little sideways consolidation going on. For me, it didn't really make the cut there, just because I don't really see any decent volume there. So the chart looked okay, the volume's not so good. ASM I thought was much more interesting. So we sort of got our VCP. So I got our first leg down, second leg down, third leg down here, and then like yesterday, this had broken a little B wave for me. I thought, oh, that's not bad here. That's this is a stock that can get going. Had a pretty decent move the last time there. It's had a nice cool off there, and you look all through here, pretty light volumes there. So it's not like it's being a solid breath where it's just people sort of switched off there with the market being negative. But once the market gets back again, they'll sort of tend to go back with a little bit of risk here. So I thought this looked pretty good yesterday. A little bit of a B wave break on the VCP, and away it's gone there. So thought that looked pretty good. AX1 is sort of one I'm keeping an eye on there, sort of retail stock. I do think this is a good company here. Still sort of sitting, still going sideways there. Still hasn't broken a swing high here. So just to wait and see for me. I think you might see this come. I think RBA might hike here next week, Melbourne Cup Day. Might see some of the retailers maybe wind back a little bit, maybe consolidates back in here, but just sort of watching that one there. John Ling Group, I saw this one here. It's actually sort of holding it right. It's had probably slightly larger correction than you want to see. It's probably has come off a bit there. The only thing I did see was some volume coming at a low. There wasn't too much volume on the pullback through here, but the volume came in at a low. It's had a nice bounce here, which is a good sign there. So I thought that looked okay there. What sort of did strike me a little bit with this one was the sort of weekly chart there, because this has like had a fantastic run here, and now we're having a bit of a pause, a bit of a sideways orientation there. And like so far, we've just got swing low, swing low, swing low. So, but this is sort of showing the VCP sort of characteristics for us as well, but also having sometimes these really strong super growth stocks, they'll have a cracking run. Then they can either have that, 50, what's a Minervini rule, like 80% of them will have a 50% decline, or, and then 50% might correct. So
50% correct, 80%.
80%, yeah. So you can get some really big declines in there. So this has had that hard price here. So it's definitely had the halving there. And now it's used up a lot of time. So it's really gone. We thought about this being sort of the high there, and we're testing the high again, but that's gone through like a 2-year sort of sideways move here. So this is definitely one to keep an eye on here, because this is sort of a company in pretty strong position. I mean, anyone who sort of does any insurance jobs there, any repairs and stuff from insurance there, which we tend to get plenty of that in Australia here with the different seasons and winds and cyclones and bushfires and everything like that. These guys do a lot of the insurance. They're probably the biggest insurance repair group there. So fairly decent sized sort of company there. Just probably going through a little bit of just letting earnings sort of catch up to the hype there. But definitely want to keep an eye on there. I think that's one that could break out here long term. Just might do a bit of work here on the daily. But yeah, pretty constructive there. BAC. Had a nice little jump up there, Chris, yesterday. There was a non-binding bid around $11, so that potential be what I refer to as a little bit of a game changer type of gap. When I see like a gap up on some game changing news, then that's sort of one where you can sort of run here. So I do like this one here. For me, if I was buying this here, I just wouldn't want to see it go below the low. But these are ones that often can run there. The non-binding bid is probably a little bit less attractive. We do see quite a few of those that fizz out. But there was another game changer trade I did see today. Just interrupt the list there, but I saw NEU sort of had a really good update here this morning. So basically, had a massive increase in sales, which was way ahead of expectations there, way ahead of market expectations. Their stock did sort of gap up, and it's run all the way through. And obviously having a bit of a pullback here now, but you remember sort of something like Pro Medicus had that update there recently where we had a massive gap up, and then it ran for another 4 or 5 days here. So that NEU I thought was really interesting there. Thought this could actually probably gap up here. Pretty good news there. I'll be surprised if it doesn't rally all the way through to 15. So I think I'd always have always keep my stop below the low. There should never break that sort of where it sort of gaps up and follows through. But we already got pretty good volume through there. That's pretty interesting to me. LIC was okay here. I think gone now sort of above this sort of swing high. There's some okay volume in there. Bit of a choppy one there, but didn't mind it. DRO drone ship probably a little small here, but do have a little bit of a VCP setting up in Equus. Obviously, did come up on the radar there a couple of weeks ago as one of the wall stocks. So just wanted to keep an eye on there. Probably maybe too specky for me, but definitely want to keep an eye on there. CHC was sort of interesting here, just because I think some of those property trusts have really come off quite a bit here and just trading and fair discount there. I've heard anecdotally a few insiders sort of telling people that their stocks are like trading 40% below book value and stuff like that. So just really suppressed some of those property trusts. Everyone's sort of wary because of what's happened in the past with some of those sectors, but just there's definitely some value down there with some of these there. So I think CHC, I think Dexus was the other one that I was looking at as well. It's had a nice bounce here as well. So that's probably the most impulsive bounce we've seen so far with some of these property trusts there. So just one sector to keep an eye on there. I think that looks pretty interesting as well. What else was there? I think RF was nothing too much there. I think CYL was one that actually made the list a couple of weeks ago, Chris. I did trade this one here. Didn't trade it particularly well. But yeah, I thought this is a little gold one there. We had a little VCP. We might have talked about this little VCP in here. I did sort of buy this little move here. I just didn't like this sort of came back a little deeper than I hoped, and it sort of rallied there. I just sort of just kind of thought, well, do I want to be in their sort of small stocks when I was seeing lots of opportunities and maybe more liquid stocks? So I just transferred myself somewhere safer. But in reality, there's nothing wrong with this sort of stock here. I would continue to keep going here. So that's pretty it there. So it's quite a bit happening there. Definitely the weekly list. There's plenty of good stocks in there. Plenty of activity. Some decent sized moves there. So I think the market looks pretty interesting actually.
Well, with that, identifying possibly new movers, those rounding the bottom, talking about the market as you do on the Tuesday reports, you talk about the cycles and the sectors of the market that you're allocating yourself to. When you're having a look at the market and looking back at your experience, is there anything that's coming to mind, any anecdotes or parts of history or quotes that come front and center to you this week?
Oh, I saw Paul Tudor Jones interviewing Stanley Druckenmiller this week, so I was actually get a chance to read that. It's actually like a YouTube interview that's actually, you don't get a chance to sort of hear from two greats sort of sitting there, but it kind of made me, I was just sort of thinking about, like Paul Tudor Jones is a big one for, he has this sort of 5-for-1 risk reward everyone sort of knows about, but, he always sort of said, don't focus on making the money, or focus on protecting what you have. And if we think about this market here, it's been pretty messy here now for 3 months. So I was just saying before we got on air here, sort of like, I'm potentially one really big day up away from being square for the year after what has been a pretty choppy negative period here for the last 3 months. Been hard work here. I've just been chopped up. But because I've been focused on being disciplined, and even I've been chopped up there, and plenty of small losses there. I just haven't let anything get too big. So as much as it's been frustrating, negative, loss after loss after loss, but if they're all sort of small losses, and if I just protect the capital, that's the key. Then you're in there, to fight another day. And then all it takes is a really good, week or two, or even a couple of good, strong days back to back, and then all of a sudden you're back in the front, and then you're back sort of in the right direction again. So even though you can go through what I consider probably one of the toughest 3 months of the last probably 2.5 years, the fact that I might be square, I'm getting close to square by the end of this week here, sort of like that sort of just hits home to me that how important it is to stay vigilant in a pretty tough market, stick to your process there, and just keep going there. I say, I did see it. There was a quote during the week there, which is a little bit non-trading there, but the architect of this universe didn't build a stairwell to nowhere. But just so we talking about that, come back to trading and process there. We're sort of we got to build these things. We got to sort of stand by them. They work a lot of the time if you understand it when they work, when they don't work. It's important there. So just get that architecture of your plan right. Recognize that it's going to work sometimes and not work. Don't throw the baby out the bathwater sometimes. Just follow your process there. You'll know where the market goes. For me, the one thing I've sort of learned, I was chatting to a client yesterday about this, was sort of like, I need to downplay my trading in a negative market. So I need to, if I can introduce a rule where I'm trading less or less capital play when the market's in a negative state, that's one thing I've learned here in the last 3 months. It's probably been the biggest drawdown I've had in that 3 years. But the market's been pretty average as well. So the general market's down quite a bit. So, but just understanding how to trade less in a choppy environment. So it's like, you hear Minervini say it all the time. They have sort of, red light environment, green light environment, so when the green light, you're sort of, you're fully invested, you potentially probably gets leveraged. I don't use leverage, but the red light environment, you sort of be trading less, sitting more capital there. So, trying to introduce some rules into your trading there, sort of make that there. Because we're not, I think, if you study that behavioral sort of finance and stuff there, we need a little bit of assistance to protect ourselves from ourselves. So putting some good rules in place, even something like that, the index is below the 50-day moving average, maybe you should be 40% cash at all times, something like that, unless you see a really deep low, which you want to trade there. But if you're going through a bit of a downward projectile move here, something like that was sort of what I was thinking about, introducing there. Maybe once the index closes below the 50-day moving average, then I really should be pulling back to 40% cash, and I shouldn't be increasing that cash until I see what I consider to be really strong signs of a deep low.
They're good portfolio insights, and for those who are new, the context is Gary's had a couple of stellar years, and we've got that whole history of his performance. Actually, I'll put a playlist on the right of Gary's weekly report where he's consistently talking about his trades, but what he's talking about now is in the context of a stellar couple of years of adjusting, tweaking, and maintaining that process. And we also put on the right-hand side the playlist of research and trading strategy insights that Gary's covered previously as well. So with that sort of rounding, and Gary saying that he's focusing on that and maybe putting a red light, green light system or some sort of portfolio muting system in. We'll probably wrap to that and say thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.
The two playlists we'll put on the right, Gary's X Twitter handle, we'll put there over on the left,